Hello, everyone, and welcome to Loro and Friends Inside the NFL. This is a special one because we are going to be talking about the Patriots Colts game. This is part one of our pregame show as we're going to lead to Saturday's game. And then also after the game, Ben and I will be back on air to recap the game for you. It's going to be an even longer post-game show on Saturday. I mean, hopefully we'll talk about a Patriot win. I mean, the Patriots have been playing so well, but we have an announcement to make that the weekly hot stove show with Loro and Ben is going to be we won't have any shows for that until January because of the ongoing with the looming lockout that's still going on, and there's nothing really much to talk about when it comes to news and all that. So we want to get that out there, and that we are confident that the lockout's going to end in time by the time the season starts, and that we are going to launch This Week in Baseball come March 30th.
Well, Loro, thanks for having me once again. Yes, this is a pregame show that Loro and I are doing on a Wednesday, and it's because we didn't have a chance to do it last night as a usual Tuesday night. But obviously things going on. I just got back from my mini vacation last week, seeing a friend in DC and Maryland. Had a ton of fun for that, Laura. I didn't really talk really much about you. I'll talk more off the air with you about that. Had a really good time with my friend and stuff. But I'm good to be back home. I've been home for a couple days, getting myself back in a group here on M16, and yeah, it should be a really fun show. I feel like the Patriots haven't played in a decade. It just feels like for so long, even though it was only a week or two ago after this post-bye. I don't know really what you really watched for the bye week, Laura. I mean, there's a bunch of good games. You know, Tom Brady and the Bucs, obviously with a big 3-1 against Buffalo, which obviously helped out the Patriots too with the standings. Tomorrow night should be a really fun matchup too, Laura. If we want to quickly get into that, besides the pregame show tonight, just because how big of a game is between great quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert. We started to see now, kind of early in the season, we really had some here and there type of matchups in the NFL. But, we saw a big game with Kyler and Matt Stafford, the Rams on Monday night. We saw a decent game on Sunday Night Football with the Bears and Packers. I think we're starting to see a lot more throwing football, which is good to see, obviously, as the season's coming down to the wire. Obviously, another thing too, which we won't get into, is just the looming positive cases that have just been crazy, not only in the NFL but in sports. So hopefully things can start going. Obviously
there's a reason why they have protocols. If a lot of players test positive, then you go through these protocols. It doesn't mean that we're going to go through 2020 again and have a cancellation of games.
No, I mean, I told my brother off the air that these leagues have already been in bubbles, and they've all, in COVID, yes, COVID is extremely very serious thing that's happened. Everyone knows that for the most part. I know if somebody, obviously my sister's had it in the past. It's serious matter. But obviously the biggest thing about COVID in sports is adaptability. We knew that this is a seasonal type of virus, mainly, especially in colder times, during the season, and we're getting to that, at least in the Northeast, we're getting into the colder temperatures and stuff like that. So the positive cases are bound to happen. They're bound to spike, and obviously we gotta, teams are gonna have to deal with it, and it's kind of the reality now. So, but yeah, in terms of the hot stove, kind of what I'm thinking is, we really won't have a weekly show like we did in the past, me and Lowell. We will only kind of really have it if there's a breaking news segment on a managerial, on a player during this lockout time, which, by the way, they can't sign anybody during this time. So really, there's really not much that we can disclose any type of information. Maybe a rumor or two that is with a player or a coach that is really needed or is coming to a close. I did read something the other day about Chris Bryant possibly not being able to re-sign back with the Giants. Kind of just little tidbits here and there, but we really won't kind of get back into our main show until this lockout officially concludes, which me and Loro have kind of hopefully prayed that by spring training there could be some type of conclusion or agreement. Of course, time will tell from there. But let's looking forward to this Patriots Colts matchup, and Loro, take it away.
All right, so Last week, the Patriots, it seems like yesterday. Last week we talked about our players of the game for the Bills side and a little bit of the Patriots and Colts game. Last week, the Patriots with a big win. But you also know that every team sometimes might have to lose on the road. If the Patriots were to lose to the Colts, it wouldn't surprise me by any means. I feel like that if they were to lose, I think that it would fuel them for a really long playoff run, if they were to lose this game. If you would agree.
Yeah, this is going to be a really interesting game. It should be a fun game, but could also be a dangerous game for the Patriots, right? The Patriots have been rolling. They've been on a 6-7 game winning streak. But that bye week, sometimes when a team is going hot, you always just want to come back that next week. Just keep on going. And this Patriots team, who knows? Obviously the bye week is big too for guys to stay healthy, to keep going. But it feels like I said before, the Patriots have been playing in a while. Now, to be fair, the Colts just had their bye week this past week as well. So both teams are going to be kind of a little bit, maybe early on in the game, a little rusty per se. So, I guess that does have the Patriots in their favor of this game, that it could be going either way in terms of rustiness, at least early on. But the Colts have an extremely great running game. They got a great defense. They got a lot of similarities to this New England Patriots team. So I think that the biggest question for you, Laura, is the Colts are playing really good football, and they obviously kind of want to play on their terms. The Patriots really haven't gotten tested in terms of falling behind in a lot of these games in the winning streak. The Colts have one of the best first quarters scoring-wise in the NFL in at least the last several weeks as well, too. So if you're the Patriots and you fall behind, what is your main thing for the Patriots? Another thing, too, for the Colts is they've talked a bunch of Baltimore material. As there's a linebacker saying from the Colts is, we want to make Mac Jones be one-dimensional, and that means to throw the football. They saw the film of what happened against the Bills, and the fact is they're thinking that Mac Jones does not have it in them. One thing I did read from CLNS Media, Em Lazar from PatriotsMedia.com, he's a great reporter. Got a chance to interview him while I was back in college, great guy. And he was essentially saying this game is the Colts have one of the worst zone defenses against tight ends. And I think one of the biggest things about that interests me is we could see a bunch of double set tight ends. Matt could use the play action. And I think this could be a big game for Jonnu Smith, who could definitely get going a little bit better. He's been definitely showing flashes here and there. Hunter Henry's been great. But I think that if the receivers on the outside don't really make a lot of noise, I think it could be a big tight ends game and a big ground game, at least to overall kind of see, okay, the running game obviously is our strong suit, but if you could take that play action, you obviously can have that as well too. So we got to see in terms of how they can do it. But the biggest thing, Laura, is containing the strong ground game that the Colts have, and that's obviously headlined by Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines. They've been absolutely dominant. And another thing, too, is their receiving core. Obviously you can't take away in terms of Michael Pittman on the outside. He's been one of the best underrated receivers, at least the last couple of weeks. I expect J.C. Jackson to be on him, which should be a really fun matchup. Biggest thing is to let Carson Wentz throw it. Carson Wentz is bound to make mistakes here and there, and I think that Bill Belichick will have a scheme like he's had before with Carson Wentz with the Eagles, and that's basically challenge him to not get him comfortable. And the biggest thing about Carson Wentz is just don't get him in a rhythm, or else he can definitely, get going. He could definitely sputter here and there. It's just a matter of when. He's only thrown 5 interceptions. He's thrown for 22 touchdowns. So he's done a good job in a Frank Reich system, which he's familiar with. But I think the Patriots, who's been one of the top teams in turnover battle, if you win the turnover battle like this in the past weeks, the Patriots will win this game. I think I'm pretty confident to say that. But if they're kind of 500 in terms of the turnover battle, it could go either way. The Patriots could very well lose this game, but if they play hard, I wouldn't be too upset.
I think both teams are going to play hard. And I think the Patriots, they're going to win the division. And not only that, I really think that they're going to win the Super Bowl.
Patriots this year?
Yeah, I'm talking about this year. I think Mac Jones won a national championship in Alabama last year. I could see him being the first rookie QB to lead the Patriots to a Super Bowl title.
I don't know if it will happen this year, Loro. Of course, I'd love to dream about that, but they're obviously.
I was saying comparisons here.
Yeah,
looking at Brady's first full season as a starter in 2001 to Mac Jones's first year as a starter. I'm kind of comparing that, and I think that it's definitely going to happen because Bill Belichick's on a mission this year.
Oh, for real, yeah. I mean, but if you ask me if the Patriots should be in the playoffs, they should. I think they're better than the top. The only two teams that kind of scare me when it comes playoff time is the Chiefs and the Titans. I think the Titans not fully healthy last game that we faced them was a little bit of a break, but the only thing about the Patriots that if they have Derrick Henry and Julio Jones and AJ Brown healthy, Ryan Tannehill is a game manager. We saw against the Patriots is he's not a very good I mean, the Patriots have had great success against them in past years, but he's a decent quarterback when he has talent around him. He's kind of like a Jimmy G, as I said in the past, where you have the talent around him, he's okay, but when you have nothing really around him, he could definitely sputter because he just doesn't have the ability to overcome a lot of the talent. So, and then the Chiefs, of course, they've been rolling. And I'm not saying that they're backpack. I think a lot of teams in the AFC are very beatable. I even think the Patriots are beatable. No team is unbeatable per se, but I think the two teams that could really give a run for the money, like the Chiefs and the Titans, the Colts could be one of those dark horse teams too. They have a good coach, Frank Wright. Carson Wentz hasn't been playing that bad this year, when he is healthy. And their ground game is just really going to take it. So, Laura, as much as you want to say Super Bowl, I mean, obviously I'd pray for it. We should definitely be thrilled in terms of, I mean, obviously I'm not comparing last year to this year. I mean, this year's already for sure exceeded what I expected for the future per se, but they, they definitely could win a Super Bowl within the 1, 2, 3 year type of time frame.
It could happen this year, though.
Can I see them making the divisional championship run? Absolutely. Super Bowl, time will tell.
I think it could really happen this year. I could see that because the defense of the Patriots has been playing really well, and talk about the offense starting to click at the right time. And Bill Belichick is definitely gonna want that revenge. And I think that last year how Brady did it, I think this is Belichick's year to win a Super Bowl.
If the Patriots win the Super Bowl, Loro, I will give you a bunch of credit, and I'll talk to you off air about a little prize I might give you. Sounds like a plan?
Maybe so, but let's see.
I'll talk to you off the air about that.
Let's just see how this goes. I mean, talking about their matchup against the Colts, I mean, the Colts have a really good defense.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the Patriots on offense, I mean, Mac Jones, you already know he's going to win Rookie of the Year. Damian Harris has had a really good year. He could be playing this weekend. But I just want to see this offense click.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Patriots are going to be a little rusty offensively. I mean, they obviously have to throw a lot more than they did in that windy game. But I think that, with Mac, I know he was on the injury report this week. It didn't seem like he faced him in practice, according to what Evan said from 98.5. He was on an interview, and obviously he's a Patriot media. Listening to him before coming on air, say that Mac looks okay, but obviously not with defenses coming right at him. But it's on his not throwing hand. I'm not too worried about it unless he starts getting hit a lot on that side. But even that, I think it's gonna be a quick passing game. We saw what the Buccaneers did against the Colts is just running up the gut. I mean, and obviously kind of mix in some play action. Gronk had a big game. The tight ends. I think the biggest thing about the Colts is they love using their tight ends, but they struggle against tight ends. And I think that it could be a tight end type of matchup. That's what Carson Wentz uses too. He uses the tight end, Jack Doyle, and he likes obviously the guys on the outside. The Colts will definitely use a lot in their passing game too. They'll mix it around. I mean, I'll also look at the Colts in terms of their scoring the last several weeks, but they've been scoring a lot in the highs. And the Patriots have done a good job in terms of keeping teams in check. At least so they had their bye week obviously before they played Houston. Really, Houston's not really much in terms of count, but they scored 31 points. And Jonathan Taylor, 143 yards on the ground. Tampa Bay, they scored 31 points. Buffalo, they scored 41 points. The lowest game that they scored was shockingly enough Jacksonville. But even that, I mean, I know that they were going to be winning that game. I mean, Jacksonville is just a team that's obviously on the downslope, and they know for sure that the Colts knew for sure that they just needed a stop or two for that game for sure. But this is going to be a really tight game, Loro, and obviously we get our scoring prediction for this game. But I think the biggest thing with the X factor in the matchups, who is the guy for the Patriots that you're seeing that could have a really big game in this one? Maybe a player that really hasn't shown a lot this season, but could definitely step up. Uh, at least for me, in the I think Ramondre Stevenson could have a big game in this one. I mean, I know Mac definitely will play a lot better than he did. I mean, he didn't really have to do a lot of that Buffalo game, obviously, with the windy temperatures, but I think that he will throw in the mid to high hundreds, maybe low 200s. I'm not expecting anything above 200s in this game, high 200s per se. But I do think that there is going to be an opportunity for some plays out there because I do think even though the Colts will run a lot of plays, they want to play on the time possession on them. I think the Patriots will do a good job in terms of confusing Carson Wentz, and Carson Wentz is a guy that will definitely crack if Bill Belichick in terms of knows what he's doing, and he does know what he's doing. He knows in terms of he's seen Carson Wentz in the past. Limit the ground game. That's the biggest thing, and let Carson Wentz throw it 30, 40 times and see what he can do. And that's what it's so good about Belichick is in terms of he will basically try to make your quarterback one-dimensional. Sometimes quarterbacks are great both ways. Carson Wentz can run the ball, but he definitely doesn't have that elite speed. You basically kind of contain him on the outside. He'll make a pass here and there. He does have a decent arm. I'll give him that. I've seen some tape on him. He can definitely throw the long ball, but it's obviously going to be curious to see. Justin, obviously, my man, he has been going off in the comments like always. Thanks, Justin. Does Damon Harris play? What I've heard is I think he will be active. I think he's been out there in practice this week. I think that unless there's a boring setback from him, at least, tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, he should be good to go at this point. So you have the two-headed monsters at running back, and then I think that, the Colts are definitely it's going to be up and down type of game. And Laura, I think if the Patriots lose, I would definitely be curious to see in terms of how they lose. Because this could really be either way, and I think the both teams are very even. So, what's your take on it? Who's your X factor? Just what's your overall thoughts before we get to our score prediction?
I think my X factor in this game, you got to highlight two guys, Mac Jones and Damien Harris and Jacoby Myers. I expect him to be a big factor in this game. And then talk about the guys on defense like Matt Judon, talk about guys like J.C. Jackson, who's had an unbelievable year. I really want the Patriots to keep him next year. I'm sorry I'm too early on that free agent predictions, but Patriots need to keep J.C. Jackson next season.
Oh, for sure. I mean, we don't know the range about Jackson. Obviously he's going to be asking for the bank for sure. They also have to kind of see in terms of what their other contracts are. I mean, I do think Hightower is going to be gone after the season. He's had a great run, but he's obviously getting to the end. McCourty's a free agent. I think that McCourty really likes playing here, but obviously we'll have to see in terms of what he figures out. There's going to be a lot of guys out there. I would definitely entertain to see if Burkhead will be back, maybe next year, because I think that he works really well with their running back scheme. James White's a free agent too. I'd love James to come back, but I just think that James is going to be ready to move on somewhere else.
I don't think the Patriots should move on from James White after the ACL.
You got it. They won't, but there's definitely a good chance that he could be. He got a lot of trade interest last year, and he decided to come back. But I think Bill will kind of see that the running back room. I think Bolden has really shown a lot of good strides with White being out, and it's just going to be a very heavy room. You already have Stevenson, you have Harris. There's just not. I think that White could definitely be playing somewhere else, possibly for more playing time. That's just all I'm saying, because he's definitely been a running back with this team that's played a lot, And when you have guys like Stevenson, unless Stevenson doesn't play a lot, but you've seen kind of what Stevenson gives you and Harris gives you. And I don't know if White, they could use him in the passing game for sure. I'll say that. But I mean, you also look at J.J. Taylor. J.J. Taylor hasn't really played a lot, and he obviously is a passing catching back. So you could definitely go different ways with it. Does James White be on the move? Does he come back? I would say 50-50. We'll see. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Patriots they need to keep Devin McCourty. I mean, if he goes, I mean, it would be a huge loss to New England and all that. But
yeah,
I feel like that the Patriots defense was probably going to get younger by next season. I mean, I feel like that you need to keep some veteran guys. Like I would definitely keep Kyle Van Noy around next year. I wouldn't want to lose him in free agency again.
Yeah, I mean, I think the edge rushers are going to be basically set for next year. You have
with Chase, Vinovich, and talk about Josh Uche, talk about Dietrich Wise, who's been really good. Matt Judon's a stud. So
yeah,
I think the Patriots are going to be
secondary. I think the Patriots have a lot of questions.
I mean, we're going to have some announcements to talk about when the offseason comes. Ben and I are going to have some free agent previews, talk about the Patriots offseason plans after the season ends.
Definitely so. I can't wait to talk about it. One thing I did want to mention is the Colts. And I'm looking at their stats right now. Of course, the guy headlined by their offense is Jonathan Taylor, right? He has 1,340
yards. There's X factors for the Colts, too, that I want to point out. Besides Carson Wentz and Jonathan Taylor at running back, you got to watch out for T.Y. Hilton. I mean, he still has the speed.
I mean, T.Y. is interesting because he has 15 catches he has 23 targets for 177 yards and just one touchdown. He's not the same guy he used to be.
No, I'm talking about Michael Pittman, who's going to be a stud.
Pittman's a stud. They also have Zach Pascal. He's a receiver. They'll definitely use him. And Taylor obviously is a threat in the catching game as well as the running backs. The running backs are not only crazy good in the ground game, they're great in the passing game. So this is definitely going to be a big test for the Patriots. They have a lot of guys, and it's a great test too before the Bills game. And I think the Bills, with better temperatures, I think they will. I mean, we saw what they did against. I think our defense, low key, is better than Tampa's defense. That's another story for another day because Tampa just blitzes all the time. They're good. They're decent defense, but I don't think it's as good. I mean, we saw what happened. They almost blew it. Up big in the second half when they shouldn't have had to blitz every single time against Josh Allen. But Josh Allen right now is currently banged up, so we'll have to see in terms of what his situation is for this weekend.
I hope he plays against us Saturday. Bring him on again.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think Josh Allen is. He's not obviously as better as he was last year, but he's definitely still showing strides, and he can get dangerous when he's on. I gotta say that he can definitely get dangerous when he's on. But Bill Belichick definitely has a lot of. He definitely knows how to confuse him for sure because he's faced him obviously a bunch of times. So let's go to our score prediction. This is gonna be a high-scoring game, I think, but it's gonna be a little sluggish early. I think it'll be in the high 20s. And I think, hey, Loro, it's going to come down to a final play. I think the Patriots are going to have a pass breakup and a big spot. They're going to have a passing scoring touchdown to win it or a field goal. The sad thing, Laura, I have to say is it can go either the other way too. And that's my other prediction, is the Colts can win on their terms as well. But with the way the Patriots are going, I always feel like the last couple of weeks, I was thinking going to Buffalo, and I just can't. I gotta ride it out. My score prediction with the Pats, I gotta ride it out until it's dead, and I'm gonna go Patriots 27, Colts 24. The Colts have been averaging around 30 points game by game. I think that the Patriots defense holds them down for a bit. Jonathan Taylor, I think, has 2 touchdowns. I think they're having a hard time in the ground game defense after coming back from the bye. They could maybe have that similar blueprint as what Tennessee kind of did. But I think that the offense bails them out. They have a big week. They show in terms of the Colts what they're made out of. And I think the Patriots will win on a game-winning field goal from Nick Folk.
I'm going to agree with you on that. Game-winning field goal by Nick Folk. But it could go other way. Rodrigo Blankenship's also a really good kicker for the Colts.
Yeah.
Talk about the man in the glasses and the goggles.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, the Colts are going to be definitely a very sneaky team. And listen, last year in the playoffs, right, in the wild card, they just needed a couple different scenarios where they could have won that game against Buffalo. And I think that they give the Chiefs a run for their money. I really do. Something about this Colts team, when they get in, if they get in the playoffs, I wouldn't want to face them. Even though they have Carson Wentz and he's had his inconsistencies, their ground game scares me, their defense scares me, and their offensive line is obviously one of the best. And if you have that, your chances of going pretty deep are pretty good. If you have a good line on both sides, you got a good defense, you have just a good ground game. It just makes everything else easier for your team. So I think I look at it this way. I think the Patriots will win this way because they'll get some timely stops. They'll have some turnovers. I don't think Carson Wentz will have its high 200, low 300 type of game, but I do think he'll throw a touchdown. I do think that he will have an interception as well. And I also think that he'll have a forced fumble in this game. And I think that's the only kind of way that Patriots kind of hang around because, I still worry about this Patriots team playing catch up when they're down. They haven't really been tested yet. Maybe the team, if like going to Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are up like 23-13. How 10-point game, 2-possession game. How do you do it from there? They haven't really kind of been in that situation. So, but this Colts team, the Patriots defense, it comes up big with some stops and they win this game.
I agree, 100%. So, anyways, before we end this, I'll talk about what's going to be next. So, post-game show will be happening after the game. We'll talk about Patriots and Colts. We'll recap that, players of the game. And then we'll also talk about when the Patriots take on the Bills. And then after that, and then after the Christmas holiday, Ben and I will be recapping the Bills game after the 26th. And then we'll talk about the Jags.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't really have to say much about the Jags besides how idiotic their coach is, Urban Meyer.
It would be nice to see Bill Belichick and Urban Meyer go head-to-head in a few weeks from now.
It will. I don't really know how much Urban Meyer's mind will be in the game. I don't know.
Because Bill Belichick and Urban Meyer are the best of friends.
We'll see, man.
We got Frank Reich this week. We got McDermott next week. We got Meyer in a few weeks. And then to conclude the season, we got Brian Flores.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But Brian Flores is going to do everything he can on the last day of the regular season to beat the Patriots because he knows our system and he knows Belichick's schemes.
I haven't set a trap game yet. That's my trap game of the season. Going to Miami last week. I think that's my trap game.
It's my trap game too. So don't forget, folks, pre-game, post-game show afterwards. We're going to have a long post-game show and a Christmas special on Loro and Friends Inside the NFL to talk about the Patriots and talk about what they were good at this year and all that, and we're looking forward to that. So, Ben, I'll see you on Saturday after the game.
Yeah, definitely, man. Can't wait. Go Pats. Hopefully they do well. Win or lose, we'll be back here. We'll see in terms of how our moods are, but regardless, we'll give the audience what they want. Should be a really fun post-game talk then.
All right.